So in this video, I'm going to attempt to document the war between T-Series and Pewdiepie. I do apologize in advance if this is not 100% correct. I was using the Pewdiepie versus T-Series Wikipedia page, but a good amount of it was from my own personal recollection and how I remember seeing the events, because I was actively following the race to have the most subscribers. And without further ado, here we go.
I've never really been I don't really care for numbers that much. What I care more about is the support for that I get from all you guys. That means so much more than just a random number. But
despite what most people may think, PewDiePie was not created before T-Series. T-Series' channel was made on March 13th, 2006. PewDiePie's channel was made on April 29th, 2010. T-Series' growth started out slow, as did PewDiePie's. It took PewDiePie a while to become big, about a year, and even then he only had a decent following. He did become the most subscribed YouTuber in 2013, his Amnesia series rocketing him past the competition.
Fuck no.
He, during the gaming era of YouTube, became known as one of the big three, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye joining him in 2014. Although these three YouTubers were clumped together as the most successful gaming YouTubers in this era, it was still clear who the biggest of them was, PewDiePie. PewDiePie eventually shifted from a gaming channel to a commentary/reactionary channel that he was during these events. He continued with this reactionary content, starting the still ongoing series Lawai on June 22nd, 2017. As you can see from his first video, most of the titles of Lawai were recklessly clickbait, almost as an inside joke. Reacting to PewDiePie? What?
You never played Tuber Simulator!
And the first recognition that Pewds gave T-Series was in a Lawai, most likely as an excuse to put one of these clickbait titles.
No more will we become oppressed by mainstream media. No more will I take this online abuse and hatred. No more will I say, I'm sorry, I messed up, okay? And you know why? Because we're failing!
This channel will take over PewDiePie. What are we going to do? August 29th, 2018. This was the day that he had just declared war. Of course, everyone knew he was a joke. He obviously went about it in a joking manner. The question for most is how T-Series snuck up on everyone, very suddenly becoming a threat. T-Series sub growth was very much exponential, growing on an exponential curve before eventually capping off at its greatest point, 5.6 million subs in just October of 2018. This was likely because more and more Indian people were getting access to the internet. However, PewDiePie wasn't the first to address T-Series' scary amount of sub growth. To my knowledge, the first to scout out the new titan was Pyrocynical. In fact, when PewDiePie made his video, he used almost the exact same title and thumbnail as Pyrocynical used. There was also a common joke on PewDiePie's channel about him stealing content, like how Lawai was supposed to be an off-brand version of Jack's film series, Yai. So this was just part of the joke. Other channels immediately picked up on the news after Pewds' video, such as Philip DeFranco and Drama Alert. However, this wasn't supposed to be a battle. They thought they were just documenting the fall of the platform's longest-standing champion. And in all rights, it should have been that way. T-Series was booming and PewDiePie's sub growth was almost stagnant, so he shouldn't have had a chance, right? Well, this was when the first savior arrived, just when T-Series was about to overtake him, marking the end of PewDiePie's fall and the beginning of the PewDiePie versus T-Series war.
I don't like you, T-Series. Nothing personal, kid. But I must go all out. Just this once.
Bitch lasagna. A term from a common Reddit post and shown in many Reddit reaction videos in the reaction YouTube era. Party in Backyard and Pewds worked together to make this song, which had no business being this good, and used Bitch Lasagna as its title, changed a week after its initial release on October 5th of 2018. This was mostly a joke on Pewds' part, but it quickly became the battle cry of the fanbase, self-proclaimed to be the 9-year-old army, which was trying to keep the king on his throne. This also started the rise of popularity in livestream channels dedicated to showing the PewDiePie vs. T-Series live stats using Social Blade. The most infamous of these was Flare TV, housing the largest number of views while playing Bitch Lasagna, giving everyone hope as they saw how quickly their king was gaining subs. However, as I stated before, October of 2018 was T-Series' peak performance for subs, meaning that their efforts were futile. Near the end of October, it seemed like the war was to be short-lived. PewDiePie was only 50,000 subs down. And then, the second savior came to the king's aid, biding the 9-year-old army some more time.
Dude, we got the double billboard. We don't mess around. T-Series, it's game in for you. Game in.
October 26, 2018. In a few days, T-Series would be the most subscribed YouTuber on the platform. And then, as if sent from the heavens, Mr. Beast made this video, making billboards which demanded people subscribe to PewDiePie to defeat T-Series. PewDiePie's sub growth went from 30,000 a day to several 100,000 a day. Another reason for this jump in sub growth may have been because of the rumors that T-Series was using sub bots to achieve their unseen sub growth while not having the views to show for it. This was around the time it became a mainstream strategy in the 9-year-old army to fight fire with fire and make multiple accounts to subscribe to PewDiePie with. Regardless, the results were definitive. The king would hold his throne for a bit longer, going from being 50,000 subscribers ahead to being 500,000 subscribers ahead by the end of the month. Not much happened in November. It was just both channels constantly fighting to be number one, and the numbers were getting close. Not to say there weren't any victories for the 9-year-olds. Announced on the 54th episode of Lawai and the 6th of November, PewDiePie was the first channel to have 69 million subscribers.
We did it. We beat T-Series to 69 million subscribers. I've never been more proud.
But after nothing new coming to his aid for most of November, Mr. Beast had to release a new video where he said PewDiePie 100,000 times in hope of making people subscribe on November 25th. It worked once again, keeping PewDiePie above the water. Not only this, but now people were following in Mr. Beast's footsteps and taking the news of the war to a more public setting. One of the most famous of these people who participated was the hacker Giraffe, who hacked 50,000 printers on November 29th, printing out pieces of paper telling people to subscribe to PewDiePie. Despite all of this, T-Series was still right on PewDiePie's heels. Then, one fateful day meant that PewDiePie would keep his throne a little longer. A day which started with despair, but ended with hope. December 2nd, 2018. PewDiePie had reportedly admitted defeat. So had Mr. Beast. The two largest saviors of the 9-year-old army had given up graciously. But the army demanded more. This wouldn't be over. It couldn't be. They called out to anyone they could find. Mr. Beast and PewDiePie had done their part. Now it was time for everyone else to do theirs.
I'm doing my part.
The first to respond to the call was Markiplier. A 48-minute livestream titled "I literally won't shut up until you subscribe to PewDiePie." This opened the dam for a flood of support from other creators on Twitter, including the last of the gaming era trinity, Jacksepticeye. There became a new fight that people needed to support. It was perceived that if T-Series was to be the most subscribed YouTube channel, it would change YouTube's dynamic to be more skewed in favor of companies instead of individual creators. Because of previous events such as the adpocalypse and other lack of communication between YouTube and its users, all of the creators didn't trust the platform they were on. The possibility of YouTube forgetting them was a real fear to them, and they needed to do their part. And on that day, everyone did their part. At the battle's darkest hour, it gave birth to the most unifying event to ever happen on the platform, getting PewDiePie 544,000 subscribers in just one day, which is still a record held on his channel. And this isn't an exaggeration to call it the most unifying event on YouTube. This perhaps marked the end of the drama era of YouTube, where everyone was ready to make drama out of anything that happened. Everyone had been fighting each other, but now there was a bigger cause, a final boss. And that was when PewDiePie found the help of even the most unlikely of allies.
Well.
December 6th, Logan Paul joined the fight. He told his fan base to subscribe to PewDiePie, which just gave people even more hope that they had a chance to win.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you?
Oh, so now you call for the help of the Logan.
On top of this, December 6th also marked the day that the infamous most disliked video on YouTube dropped. YouTube Rewind 2018 was a disappointment to be sure, because it only reflected the parts of YouTube that the company wanted it to show. Usually a move like this would only be hit with a small amount of distaste, but they didn't account for the platform's recent unification. It took just enough people saying that they hated it for everyone to go on a mass dislike raid, mostly for its inability to show PewDiePie or any of the recent subscriber war. December was truly the golden age for the 9-year-old army. On top of there being a slew of new content surrounding the war, by the middle of the month, PewDiePie was 1.2 million subs ahead of T-Series. From here until February, there was not much of note in terms of war-ending events. PewDiePie released a YouTube Rewind which was much more accurate on December 27th, which was met with praise. There was continued support of PewDiePie, and everyone thought that they were going to win. This was their redemption arc. They had almost lost, and now they had shot into the lead. But unknown to them, T-Series was going to be a force that would refuse to stop. By the beginning of February, people began to realize it. February 2nd, 2018. The first broadcast to my knowledge that PewDiePie was in urgent need of help, a stream from Keemstar.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency broadcast. This is an emergency broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency broadcast. This is an emergency broadcast.
PewDiePie was only 30,000 in the lead, and there were rumors that Mr. Beast was going to have an ad in the Super Bowl that would tell people to subscribe, and it was the next day. So he wanted PewDiePie to be 50,000 in the lead to make sure he didn't lose before that happened. In 30 minutes, Keemstar accomplished just that and shut down the stream. He did have a quote, though, that perfectly reflected how the masses of YouTube perceived the war.
Have you ever seen Lord of the Rings, where there was the evil and there was the good? You know, that's basically what we're talking about right now.
Mr. Beast didn't have an advertisement of the Super Bowl, but that was because the rumors were misunderstood. However, he did have shirts which told people to sub to PewDiePie and were seen multiple times on national television. The gap continued to dip in T-Series' favor, other YouTubers having a call to action like Jacksepticeye on February 13th. However, it was all inevitable. The tables were continuing to turn, and on February 22nd, PewDiePie, for the first time, wasn't the most subscribed YouTuber on the platform. YouTube must have heard about the claims that the 9-year-old army was making multiple accounts to subscribe, and decided to delete some of them, causing PewDiePie to fall 2,000 subscribers behind T-Series. Of course, this was fixed in under 10 minutes, mostly because of PewDiePie's sub growth, which was very large that day due to Elon Musk hosting Meme Review, which should have been a historical event on its own.
Oh my god, dude. So fucking dead.
Jesus.
So
Wait, is that a
dead.
real picture?
I think that's a real photo of a deer that probably jumped into a pool and then just fucking thrashed around and drowned. So that's
Jesus, is that true?
that's delightful.
What is that actually happened?
Of course it happened. I think this is a reflection of how just
Oh my god.
dark we've become.
Oh my
A
god.
lot of weird forces at odds with each
Well,
other.
why am I
in
doing
society
for not
right
working?
now.
Unfortunately, the Elon Musk Meme Review will be one of the last good things to come out of the war, because now we enter March, the true dark ages for the 9-year-old army. From now on, YouTube will have audits, changing the number of subscribers on PewDiePie's channel. The two channels were neck and neck, so even the smallest changes were threatening to the war. 9th of March, T-Series passed PewDiePie for 5 minutes. 11th of March, T-Series had the lead for 18 minutes. 13th of March, PewDiePie was down by 4,000 subs, when to everyone's surprise, he got put back in the lead in under 10 seconds, implying that a YouTube audit actually gave him subscribers. 19th of March, the spot of most subscribed channel was changed 8 times, the subscriber count teetering near the edge. 20th of March, T-Series got put into 12,000 subscriber lead after a YouTube audit, but was under again within the hour. 21st of March, PewDiePie lost his spot by nearly 35,000 subscribers at the peak of the event, but eventually had his throne back in 12 hours. 22nd of March, more bouncing back and forth between the two channels for first place. 25th of March, the throne was lost for 15 hours. 26th of March, this time it was for 14 hours. On the 27th of March, PewDiePie lost his lead for the rest of the month. In this stream of information, perhaps you had the feeling that the good guys were losing. To many, this was the case, but the darker side of having tension also came to light. To these people, this wasn't how things were meant to be. In all the movies and stories, the good guys are meant to win. It was this belief that they deserved to win that caused people to start going out and doing more drastic things for the war. They had used every card they had, every possible method, to try and get people subscribed so far. or so most of them had thought. March 8th, the Brooklyn War Memorial was defaced with the message, "Subscribe to PewDiePie." PewDiePie, clearly sickened by the act, condemned it and made a donation to the park where the memorial was dedicated. But this was just a preface to how far some were willing to go. March 15th, the darkest day of the entire war. Not because of T-Series, but because of the act of a certain individual. Frankly, if you know what it is, then you already know. No more notice needs to be called to the event than already exists. However, the impact it had on the war is still important. That is why I'm mentioning it. Most of the 9-year-old army lost their determination to win at this time, realizing that even the most noble of causes wasn't worth what happened that day. And so, most of the overall energy around the event died down. People knew deep down the T-Series was going to win eventually, and now they just had to accept it. From here on out, most of them just wanted the war to end in silence. And for the rest of the month, it did. Until on April 1st, PewDiePie released a music video which was meant to just recognize that he was handing the crown over. Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations, it's a celebration. Party all day, I know you've been waiting.
Again, this song had no business being this good. Within the day, PewDiePie had taken back the lead, which even surprised him. He had no expectation of having his throne back. The 9-year-old army was once again filled with hope. They changed the war this time. Their new goal was to make PewDiePie the first YouTuber to have 100 million subscribers. We really thought it was possible, but the sudden burst of subs was misleading. T-Series passed him for the final time on April 14th. When people were upset about this, PewDiePie released a video on the 28th of April telling everyone that the war was officially over. He never really was attached to being number one, despite how hard everyone fought for it. He did say that having everyone work with him was an entertaining and humbling experience, but it was time to end it. And for most people, that's where the war was over. But I think we can all say that to us, T-Series never really meant that much. They were just Scary Company X that was the Goliath in the David vs. Goliath story we made. And so today is the day that PewDiePie reached 100 million subscribers. Today is the day that he won, at least in our hearts. To me at least, the PewDiePie vs. T-Series meme was a bright light in the darkest time of my life, and it meant the world to feel like I had a part in something bigger than myself. So thank you to everyone who contributed to the war. It was a lot of fun. But now we have something more important to look forward to, because after the night comes the morning.
Good morning, gamers! It's Minecraft.